Hello, my name is Mario and welcome to PlazaBI. If you haven't watched my previous video, you have it here. And in that video, what I do is I show you how you can install Power BI from scratch, what you need to consider from the configuration part, and how you can navigate throughout the interface. In today's video, we're gonna go through a real-life scenario, particularly a challenge I had to face this year, where I will show you how you can treat the data and which steps I follow in order to solve the problem. I can jump now to my screen so you're gonna understand better the current issue. Alright, so what you see here is just a couple of notes I took about the following datasets that you have in this file. If you want to give it a try, everything will be in the description. You can follow all the steps as I perform them. But yeah, reach out to me in the comments if you have any questions. Okay, so the scenario is as follows. I have a table of exchange rates. I've been asked to gather all the exchange rates on a daily basis and upload into the system. And since I'm not working during the weekends, you will notice that there is no exchange rate for the 4th and the 5th, and that's because that's Saturday and Sunday. I was asked to record this exchange rate, upload it to the system, and then the system will be able, or my report will be able to pick up the corresponding exchange rate and apply that into reports. The problem is, since there is no exchange rate for the 4th and the 5th, the system has to take the latest exchange rate that was submitted. So in this case, if I'm in the 4th of January, I will have to pick the 3rd of January exchange rate. And the same for after the 10th. Assuming that we are currently, let's say, 11th of January, that particular exchange rate is only available tomorrow because the exchange rate is only gathered on the next day. The system has to use the 10th as the exchange rate used on my reports. One currency was not properly set up in the system, and there is no conversion in between SEK and Euro, but we have SEK to USD, so therefore we have to think on a logic to do a bridge currency. So in this case, we're gonna have to convert SEK to USD, and USD we have it, so we can bridge that gap into Euro. Okay, so that's in terms of the FX exchange rate. So I also have a couple of tables. I have a dummy data transaction table where I have more details in terms of the company, which transaction currency was used for a particular record, transactions amount, and which account in terms of the general journal was used. I also have a few mappings here. I have charts of accounts mapping, so depending on the account, it's a profit and loss or balance sheet. And then I also have a region specific dimension. So I will be able to slice the data depending on all those dimensions. In this case, anything that is a profit and loss, a P&L account, I will convert that using what is year-to-date average exchange rate. And the balance sheet accounts, I will use the end of the month rate for that particular month. I have just a couple of examples of how we can calculate the year-to-date, the monthly average, and the end of the month rates. So that's all in terms of the resource. And then I want to just flag a table for the exchange rate. There is no defined range associated with this spreadsheet. Whereas if I go to the transaction table, I see clearly that this is a table. So if I go to table design, I can see a table name there. And then the same for the other table. So the only one that is not really a table or a range is this one. It can be like that sometimes, so you just want to work with what is available here. So I will show you how you can treat each of these things differently. All right, so no further ado, we can jump into Power BI. If I open a blank report, first thing that I will do is I don't want the system to automatically assign relationships. So what I will do is I will go to options and settings, options. So under data load, you just go to auto detect new relationships after data is loaded and disable that and check that. With that, you're gonna prevent a bunch of relationships created without your permission. I think it's just a common good practice to apply that. There are many ways of loading the data, but since this is an Excel file in my desktop in this case, I will use import data from Excel file. That's my root location, so I'm just gonna select the current file. And then in this view, you're gonna notice what I was mentioning before. Some of the resources that we have here, they are coming as table icons here or as spreadsheet sources. I want to load the charts of account dimensions, the geographic table, and then there is another one that is the dummy transactions table that we loaded there. Then the exchange rate, they are part of the FX table spreadsheet. So I'm just gonna click on that and then I can see how it looks. Instead of hitting on load, we're gonna apply several transformations, so it's better just hit on transform data. Okay, so once we have this, I'm just gonna check the first table. I can clearly see that the system now automatically has created a bunch of steps here. So every single time that you load something, you will see every single transformation that you apply to the current table over here in the right side. The first step is just locate where is that file. So basically go to that root, and then it's just saying get the contents from the file, and then the next one is just within that file drill down to the particular table or spreadsheet that I would like to see. So in this case, I'm just filtering by table. The table name is charts of accounts, and then get the data content, and that's the second step. The third step is just assigning of the different data types. But as you can see, account field is automatically detected as a whole number, and I would like to be consider this as a text. So I'm just gonna either click on the three on the three numbers over here, and then you will see other formats that you can apply. And I will say text. That's one option. And I would say replace current step. Instead of creating a new step in my right side, I'm just gonna hit on replace current, so I don't create further steps over here. It's just using the current one. That's the first thing. The geo table, I think it's fine. Everything is text. We don't have to do anything else. And then transaction table, I can see here again that the account has been identified as a whole number. So I'm just gonna do the other way. I'm just gonna go to data type here and then select text. And then the last table that we have is just that exchange rate table. And as you can see here, it automatically detected everything fine, like all the headers, everything is looking fine. Even the formats are correct, so I don't have to do anything else. But let's pretend that we have, let's say, a file like this. Imagine that we have a text here that's saying FX table. In this case, if I load that, if I save this and I load, you can refresh the view by just going to this home and then refresh preview and then refresh preview for that one. It has thrown me an error, a warning, and if I undo my steps, if I go to navigation, I can clearly see that now the preview is quite different. So what has happened here is that there is another text enter in the first row, and that whenever we promote the headers, the next step is not able to identify that header. So that's an issue. So how we can prevent this? So if we want to always make sure that it's selecting the right header, I will force the import query to automatically select the header that I would like to see. How can we do that? So if I go one step before, and then over here, I can just create another step, or we can do the following. So I can say, okay, ignore the first two rows. So I can go to remove rows and then remove top rows. And then if I'm going to insert another step because it's in between steps, and then I will say, okay, two rows. And then the next one gets the promotion. The last one gets the format right. That is if it's always in the same row. But imagine if, I don't know, for some reason, somebody entered another text, and then it's not just two, it's three rows that I need to clear. So I have to go back to my file, replace that two by a three, and so on. And that's kind of too manual. So in order to prevent that to happen, regardless of the number of columns, rows, what we have to do is we can identify when this text comes into play. So what I will do is I will use table.skip, but over the table. So the table over here is just the previous step. And then instead of doing that, I will say check the column one and remove everything that is different than my text. And the text is between quotes. Each is just the iterator. So it's just gonna go through all the, oh, I typed this wrong. It's from. So it's gonna go through every single row within that column, check the value, and whenever it's not the same, it's gonna skip that row until it actually reaches the value that it matches the specific name that we have entered. So that's a way of ensuring that you are always getting right the headers. Alright, so now everything is clean, and then we can actually start thinking on the logic of how we can fix the issues with the FX. So if you think about it, what is missing from the FX table is basically we don't have all the days in this table, right? So the first thing that we'd like to fix is add every single day in this table, and if the value is missing, then we can think about how we can fix that. But at least we want to have a continuous table with all the days per currency. To achieve that, the first thing that I will do is just create a calendar table. Okay, in this case, what I will do is I'm gonna reduce a simple query that I have already created, so we don't have to spend all this time thinking from scratch. So I'm just gonna paste this, and I'm just gonna explain what I did here. So just gonna call this calendar table, right? If I go to the first step, what I have done here is I have set up the first variable. It's basically the starting day of my calendar table. And then the second step is just create the ending date of my calendar table. And then the next step, what it does is, if I expand this, is basically, I think it's better if I go to advanced editors. If I go now to the third step that we were discussing, it's calculating a list of dates between the start date, as many days between the end and the starting date. And then I have to add a 1 just to accommodate in the starting date. This duration 1, it means that I want to generate days. You can generate months, years, and so on. And then the next one is just I'm converting that list into a table. And then the following step, what it's doing is just generate a column to calculate the month and another column for the year. So if I go to the next step, it's just adding the month and the year, but I did this in a different way. I have a column here with dates. You can go to add column, then date, and hit on either a month, for example, and it's gonna create a month column, or you can do year, and it's gonna create a year. What I have done is I just did everything in one single step by using the record. If I open this, in order to create a record, you need to use these brackets, and then add the column name that I want to use, month, and then the formula for extracting the month from that date. Day is the name of the column of the dates. So I just use date.month over day, and then comma, I add another column that is month name, and that's the formula to get the month name, and then another one for the year that basically gets the year. It creates a column with records. And then the next step, what it does is just expand those records, and then I just change the types of every single column. In order to expand, you see these 2 arrows pointing different directions. You just hit on that, and you're gonna be able to specify how many columns you want to into this table. I selected everything, and what I just did is just ignore the original column name as prefix. Otherwise, it's gonna create, in this case, we'll call custom.month, custom.month name, custom.year, and I don't want to see that. And that's it. That's my calendar table. All right, now I have a calendar table, so I have all the days in the calendar, and I want to basically create all the combinations possible between days and currencies. But I don't have a table for currencies. I can use the FX table, but instead of copying the same query, what I will do is just reference this particular table. I call this just row FX, and then I'm just gonna hit disable the load, so it doesn't go to in the model itself, because I'm gonna create another table with the right FX, everything calculated. So this is just kind of my reference point, the starting point. So you can hit and right click on this and then create reference, and that creates another query that is just basically looking to that particular table that was already created. So I'm not duplicating the number of tables. I'm not loading twice the same table. I'm just referencing that particular query. We call these currencies, and then I just care about the from currency. So what I will do is I'm gonna right click on the currency and remove others, other columns. I have a list of all the currencies, but it's not unique. So what I have to do create is just a distinct table with just those currencies. In order to do that, you can go to home, remove rows, remove duplicates. Right, so I have now a table with currencies, but there is one thing that is missing. What happens if I have a euro transaction? I don't have the currency euro here. Okay, since the euro is missing from this table, and this is based on the row FX, what I will do is I will add the euro as part of the row FX. I don't want to create the euro just in the middle of this calendar that I have here. I want to put that as the first record based on the first date of this spreadsheet. So what I want to do now is just create another step over here. And then from this table now, what I can do is just select that date column. So I'm just going to say table dot select columns. Pick the day. Is day or date? I think it's date. Yeah. And then I can do a distinct because I have the first over here, the first over there, the second, and so on. So what I will do is table dot distinct that. So then it's a unique list of dates. And then I just want to sort this table. I mean, it's already sorted, but to ensure that I don't have any problem in the future, I will just to bulletproof this. And for that, I just gonna ensure that it's always sorting ascending. So table dot sort there. And if you are wondering why I'm doing all this in one single step, it's just because I want to keep this tidy and I'm just nesting different transformations happening in the same step. The transformation that I want to do is over the date order ascending. All right, so that's sorted now. I'm just gonna pick the first value that I have in this, and then in order to do that, I'm just gonna do this curly brackets. My previous table was called change type. I would just change this, and I would call this first date. So now I have a record with the first day of my file. And now I need to get the actual value. So in order to get the value, I just need to reference the field name. So the field name is called date. Then it gives me the date for that particular record. Cool. So now I have the date, and I will create now a record with just the euro. I will create another step, and instead of referencing the previous one, I'm just gonna create one from scratch, and then I need to create as many fields as I have in my original table that I'm just gonna show you. So I have to create from currency to currency, date, and exchange rate fields. I'm just gonna call this euro. Since the name of the column is from currency to currency, so it has a space in between, these two words, so I need to use the hashtag. And then double quotes, from currency equal euro, that's the first field. Second one, euro again. Then date. And the value for this, it should be first date. So the value that we just created the previous step. And then now exchange rate. So I just do exchange rate equal 1. So that's my record. Now this needs to be converted into a table that then I can append to the previous tables. Record to table. Okay, so that's not the new table, but the problem is now I have all the column names into one column. So I need to transpose this. You can go to transform, then transpose, and then I have every single column where it should be, and then I just need to promote. Table, promote, headers. Right, that's the table that I need to append to the previous one. And then what I will do is just create a new step, table, combine. So that's the first table, and then the previous one should be without euro. So I'm just gonna say that here, without euro. It has to be within a list. So it's a list of tables. So now, as you can see, I have the first record there. I will change now the format again. I mean, ideally you should only do that once, but it is what it is. I can work with this way. If I go to currencies, I now have the euro because it's referencing that particular table. So then it's just getting the euro from here. Now I need to create as many combinations between calendar and currency. What I will do is I will reference the calendar table. So I'm not duplicating, I'm just referencing. I only care about the day column. So I will say table, select column. Actually, I will call this all combinations. I will cross join this against the currencies. Is as simple as creating another column, directly call here currencies, adding that into every single day that I have here. So I'm just gonna do that there, and then I'm just gonna expand. Cool. Actually, I don't like the from currency here, so I'm just gonna change that as another step, and I'm just gonna call it currency. And this is text, so I'm just gonna say type text here. So now I have all the potential FX rates in my table. I'm not planning to load this table, so I'm just gonna disable that one. Okay, now that I have all the combinations, I now have to merge against the raw FX table. What I will do is I'm just gonna reference this one. I will call this all FX daily. What I need to do now is merge. So I'm just gonna go to home, merge, and I will do a left join. So basically I will bring the raw FX table. Is with the control 1, 2. It's currency. And hey, I should have a left join between these two. Let's expand. Since this currency is already in the table, I just don't need to load from currency, and the day is already there, so I just don't need it. And right now I have all the combinations where it matches. So let's see if I just check, there are some euros there, and then there's some FX coming through, but the majority of the fields are coming as null. The first thing I will do is just sort this. So I will do a sort ascending by currency, and another one by date. So then I have all the CLP together, all the following together, and so on. To fill the gaps, I want to modify every single currency isolated from the others. So I will have to first group them by currency, so I don't mess the data from the other currencies. Let's go to the corresponding currency column and then hit on group. And then instead of count, I will do a all row. What I have now is a table for every single currency in my system. So I have that. So now what I have to do is I need to fill all those nulls. I will do that in another column here. So I'm just gonna duplicate this. And instead of count copy, I will call it new details, for example. So now I have to perform a fill down and a fill up in that order. Anything, for example, that was on Friday will be carried forward to Monday. And then anything that was prior to the a gap or the first record in my table will be filled with the first FX rate I have in the table. In order to fill down on this table using something that is called transform columns. Transform that particular table, that's basically what I see on the screen, and then which transformation I want to apply is just on the new details column. So I will say new details and the iterator. So I will go through every single table within this column and I will apply a fill down. And since I want to apply every single row, I need to use the underscore. And then I need to specify which columns I want to fill down. In this case, I want to do that on the to currency and into the FX. So I need to use this to currency and then comma and then exchange rate. Right, so now I have done a fill down. I need to do a fill up. I will do exactly the same. So I will say, we call this fill down. Cool. So if I check now, this one is still null, and then the other one, it has a to currency here as euro, and then an exchange rate of the probably is the 1st of January of my file, but is brought back from the 1st of January to the first record that is the 1st of December 2024. So we basically have completely cover all the gaps. Once I have that, I no longer need the other two columns. So what I will do is I just gonna hit on this, remove others. Okay, so if I expand now, it's gonna bring all the columns, and then this should contain all the FX rates for every single day. But then now I have another issue. It's just that there are some currencies that are not directly converting into euro. So if I filter, for example, SEC, I know that the currency that is converted to is USD. How can we solve this? So what we can do is bridge the gap between the two currencies by doing a merge against the USD. So I will bring the euro from the USD. I will keep two pieces of the same query. One will be just all the currencies that are converted to euro with no problems, and then create another table underneath that will be just the check in this case, because it's the only one that has that issue. And then I will append that once I have fixed the issue. So I will start with just getting the euro one, and then I just filter by two currency, only the one that say euro. I will call this step euro, sorry, 2 euro. And then I will do the same, but in the other way. So I will just reference again, but I'm not going to reference the previous step. I'm going to reference the expand new details. So I'm going to do hashtag expand new details. Then I'm just going to filter this. I will do that in one step. So I will do table select rows is equal to, no, sorry, when is distinct than euro, without euro. Cool. So I will merge this one against the previous one only where it's matching this column. So basically I'm trying to bring the USD from the previous table. It's from this one to this one, but I will explain now. Power Query has created a line, a step for me, but this is not gonna give me what I'm looking for. So if you see, it's trying to nest the without euro with the same without euro. That is not right. I need to use the 2 euro here. So I'm pointing to a previous table that I have there. I can expand to currency because it's gonna bring the euro and then the exchange rate that was used. So now in order to convert from Czech to euro, what I have to do is I have to multiply two exchange rates, so one against the other. I will do that in a custom column. It will be the current exchange rate multiplied by the new exchange rate. I don't need this one, or this one. Just gonna remove that. Just gonna fix this thing. So it's gonna go to currency, and this is the new exchange rate. Perfect. So now the last bit that we have to do is just append the euro one that we have above with the new one from the check. In a new step, I just gonna say table.combine. Right. Just gonna rename these, and then I just gonna apply the different types. So perfect. So now we have a clean daily FX rate that we can use on our system. And I'm just gonna pause here, and I'm gonna do another video with the second part of this one. It took a lot of time to record this one. I thought it was a simple task, but it looks like there were so many steps involved. So what I will do is I'm gonna record the second part that basically illustrate how to calculate the year-to-date, monthly average, and end of the month rates, and we're gonna put everything tidy in the star schema for that particular case. Thanks again, and see you next time.